Well, you mentioned something I just want to dig into. You mentioned that you felt awkward and sort of isolated and not know people. So what layers of that did you describe when you felt a little bit different than other people?
Oh,
Where
so
you grew up?
I grew up in White Lake, Waterford, like outside of Pontiac.
East Side, North Detroit.
Yeah.
Way north Detroit.
Way north. Like the place where all the white
Not
people
even
left.
Detroit,
Yeah.
but like some people still claim it as Detroit. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice place to grow up, and I met a lot of really wonderful people there, but I also felt like there weren't like a lot of minorities, any kind of minorities there.
Sure.
And when I was in school, there were not a lot of like out LGBTQ individuals at all. I didn't know the word bisexual until like college. It was
Sure.
either gay or lesbian. And so there wasn't a lot of discussion about those issues. And as like a teenager going through puberty, I had a lot of questions.
Right.
Very confused. The internet was invaluable in that aspect
Yeah.
because it connected me with communities of people who are also experiencing that
Right.
isolation, which is amazing.
So it was. I'm assuming it was harder because they weren't these defined. Like it's harder as much as we're not supposed to like generalize and put people in buckets. But you didn't literally find like I'm not part of this thing and I'm not really that thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really something that was talked a lot
Right.
about sexuality.
It just wasn't part of like the conversation of growing up at the
Yeah,
time.
sure.
Because I graduated in 2005.
Right.
So it was like right at that turning point where I think the internet started to get a little bit more integrated into everyone's like
Yeah.
daily life.
Sure.
But a lot of these marginalized voices were still kind of hiding because it's safer to not draw attention to yourself if you're very different.
Right.
And so I remember my band teacher in high school, he was living with his male roommate, and we were all speculating about whether or not they were
Actually roommates,
quote-unquote
yeah.
roommates, because he had a kid from a previous marriage, and it was all just speculation. He is
Sure.
definitely gay, and he's
Right.
awesome. But I didn't find that out until after I had graduated. He didn't come out publicly until after that as well.
Yeah.
So there weren't a lot of opportunities to have a conversation about like the nuances of sexual identity
Sure.
or gender identity or any of that. So it's fascinating now to see
I
that
just
there's more.
heard, did you hear any of the Kristen Stewart interview on Howard Stern?
No.
I just saw a video clip on YouTube or something, and she was talking about even just 3 years ago when everyone was trying to label her or make her vocalize who she is and what she is, and she's like, even now, like 3 years later, it's so much easier for people than it was even 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of information and also the movements and like communities you can feel like you're aligned with and part of. And anyway, that was just the snapshot. Was this like you're talking about back then in 2005, which wasn't that long ago.
It was not that long
Not
ago.
that long ago, but like even Kristen Stewart, an actress, is time stamping it from 3 years ago
Yeah.
and seeing how things are changing and so quickly.
So quickly. It's scary. Like I feel like every day I become a little bit more like my mom in the sense that like technology baffles me
You're
to such a
becoming
degree.
you're the old 32-year-old. We need to put the brakes on this.
It's amazing, but I also feel like I just switched over from an Apple, like an iPhone to a Google Pixel,
Yeah.
which they're both pretty much exactly the same. But for some reason, I keep not knowing how to navigate this phone, and it's not as intuitive as it was. I don't know.
You're the grouchy, like, I can't
I
figure
just
out
don't
the Google
understand
Pixel.
how to get to my voicemail.
This Full Exposure Podcast episode has been made possible through the support of Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, and Dr. Peter Hahn, who believe that creativity and the arts are essential to a rich, healthy, and fulfilling life.